Welcome to No Timeouts, presented by Snyder's of Hanover and their deliciously bold pretzel pieces. I am Zak McDonald. That is Dan Wilkins. That is Tyler MacKillop. And boys, we got a loaded program today. We are going position by position, breaking down which team has the advantage on every spot of the field for the Super Bowl. But before that, we got to get in some quick takeaways from the AFC and NFC championship games. We had some fun ones. We had a snowy game down there in Denver. We had an absolute shootout in round 3 of the heavyweight battle between the Seahawks and the Rams. Wilkie, what is your takeaway from the NFC championship?
Well, I think we have to start with Sam Darnold. But first, Zach, let me throw it back to you just as a resident Jets fan. Because I want to ask you, if I had told you 2 years ago that one day, whenever that may be, that Sam Darnold would be going to the Super Bowl, not just as the starting quarterback, but as the MVP favorite, what would your reaction have been at that moment?
I would have probably been crying tears of joy. I would have been celebrating with my father, just like gone on a European.
What about after he was established as a bust? Would you have ever
that would have been
that?
I would. There is no chance I would have ever believed that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people, for that reason, were hesitant to buy in on Darnold coming into this year, even coming into the playoffs, and I get it. I was right there with them at the beginning of the season, but like as the year went on, I think it became pretty clear that last year's breakout in Minnesota wasn't some sort of mirage. Like he had taken his game to yet another level in Seattle. There were some glimpses of the old Sam Darnold, dating back to the previous matchups with the Rams, even in last year's playoffs in his final game with the Vikings. So heading into this game, that was a big storyline for me, just wondering, okay, like, is this the time we get that big Sam Darnold letdown? Does Chris Shula really have his number? Because in that last game with the Vikings, it was like 9 sacks and 2 turnovers. The first 2 games of the regular season matchup, I think he had 6 picks across 2 games. Chris Shula clearly had this knack for dropping defenders into passing lanes and disrupting things in ways that Sam Darnold couldn't really figure out. But that all changed in this one, just kind of like his entire career has changed over the last little while. And he really came through with the game of his life. I mean, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Literally the game of his life.
Yes, all 3 of those touchdowns coming under pressure, and crucially, no turnovers. So for me, it's just such an incredible journey for a guy that, like we were just talking about, was completely written off as a bust at the end of his career in New York, where the lasting image was that primetime game against the Patriots where he was mic'd up, and unfortunately for him, the broadcast caught him telling teammates that he was seeing ghosts out there. And man, that sure feels like a long time ago, but it's pretty cool that he's going up against the Patriots in the Super Bowl with the opportunity to complete the redemption arc in the most incredible way possible. Now,
I always knew Sam Darnold would be the guy to take down the Patriots.
Yes, of course.
You know,
obviously, it's a different era for the Patriots, but it would be a pretty cool way to finish this thing off. And I don't care who wins this game, obviously, but just seeing him play the way he did this past week and like leading the way to do that and finish off with a Super Bowl title would be one of the best storylines we've ever seen.
What story even compares to the idea of Sam Darnold winning a Super Bowl? Is there any quarterback that we've seen? Oh, I think I know where you're going with this one.
I don't have one. What
really?
What are you thinking?
I thought maybe it's kind of a Rich Gannon arc, like where Rich Gannon was sort of wandering out, going from different teams, and then he becomes an MVP.
For sure, but the difference with Gannon is he wasn't like a top pick that like was written off as a bust and like this guy's never going to be anything. He's so bad and he's kicked around for a couple teams. Like he was a journeyman that became a good player. I mean, it didn't end well for him in that Super Bowl. We won't talk about that, but yeah, I really can't think of another example like this, and it kind of goes with the theme that we've been talking about for a little while now of these quarterbacks being written off so early in their career. Obviously, in the case of Darnold and several others, I think you could argue it was a product of their environment more so than it was of their ability. I think we knew Darnold coming out of USC had the ability to be this kind of player.
Because I was trying to say like a Mitch Trubisky, but I mean, I don't think Mitch even coming out, I know he was like the number 2 pick, right? Yeah. That year. I know there was a lot of excitement about him, but I don't even think he was the raw talent that Sam Darnold was coming out. So but it's really unprecedented.
The interesting thing about Darnold, though, and this goes all the way back to his time at USC, is like he is a turnover-prone quarterback. He's actually the first quarterback, I think, since Eli Manning to lead the NFL in turnovers and lead his team to the Super Bowl. So does that concern you at all going into this game, like a Sam Darnold meltdown?
I mean, I think it's always going to be in the back of our heads, having seen some of the games that we've seen from him in the past, but I'm kind of past that point now, being like, look, he's going to turn the ball over sometimes. That's going to happen. But he's also the type of player where you kind of put up with those turnovers because he can rip the ball downfield and kind of make up for it in one play. So I don't know, man. I'm all the way back in on Darnold, and obviously he has a great supporting cast in Seattle. He's got an amazing defense on the other side of the ball. Clint Kubiak is going to have a head coaching job waiting for him whenever he wants one, and he's got one of the best receivers in football. But make no mistake, this is also about him becoming a legitimate quarterback who can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is the most well-coached. I was just going to talk about the Kubiak side of things. I mean, this is the most well-coached team in the league all season. It has been, and that's why they're here. What Kubiak has done to this team. Going into this year, I did not have high expectations for the Seahawks because I wasn't sure how much of an upgrade Sam Darnold was going to be, and I didn't see enough changes on their offensive line that I thought they would be much better than what we saw from them last year. And what's the one thing that's changed? I mean, obviously Darnold's played at another worldly level, but like we've seen Geno Smith play at a high level too. Kubiak has done an incredible job with this team offensively, and then McDonald being on the defensive side, it's just a match made in heaven. You say that Kubiak's going to get a job when he wants one. Maybe the fact that this team's playing in the Super Bowl could potentially save the Seahawks from that actually happening.
That would be incredible for them.
My God.
Mike McDonald is consistently the most prepared coach going into the game each and every week, and that's why you see all three phases of their game. He identified.
Bring back the take you've been workshopping.
My take I've been workshopping is that Mike McDonald is the best coach in the NFL.
You guys said it too. Special teams was ultimately the deciding factor in this game.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be about Rashid Shaheed making a play or not making a play, but like they were able to contain him. But obviously they found a way to make some other mistakes.
Xavier Smith drops a punt earlier in the game, and they sent him back out there to drop another, and then it finally cost them.
Speaking of special teams, we saw on the other side of the coin in the AFC Championship game a bunch of missed field goals down the stretch that really changed the dynamic of this New England Patriots game and versus the Denver Broncos. T-Mac, what is your takeaway from the AFC Championship?
Genuinely, Zach, I'd enjoy spending 3.5 hours just taking these back over watching that game. I know it was an AFC Championship
just sitting
game,
in a lone room just with pretzels.
Yeah,
Snyder's
I mean,
pretzels.
this is a reminder of my childhood, these pretzels are. So I'd have a better time than watching that game yesterday. The weather, look, people are going to call this. People are going to say that this is, I'm coping, I'm a hater. I'm a hater. I don't care. The weather saved the New England Patriots in this game. Obviously, the first half was clean. Weather wasn't a major impact, and we didn't see a ton of offense in this game. But I think we saw more life from the Broncos offense than we did the Patriots offense, considering the only touchdown drive of the game for them was 12 yards. But I think the weather completely changed this game from the perspective of if Denver was going to walk away with a win here, it had to be in the arm of Jarrett Stidham. And obviously in the fourth quarter, nobody was able to do that, not just the Broncos. But it did
feel like at some point there was no chance anybody was going to score a point.
Exactly. And I don't want to be of the opinion to say like, okay, let's just take every football game indoors, because if we took every football game indoors, then I would probably miss the weird, quirky, bad, but they're so bad they're kind of good football games that come from it. So I don't want every game to be indoors, but it was disappointing to see the weather kind of take away one of the most high leverage games of the entire season. And man, look, we talked about this in the lead up to this game, but I definitely did think off defensively for Denver, they did everything I expected. They got after Drake May. They made it very, very difficult for this team to be able to throw the football, and their run game didn't, find much success. They didn't play Trevion Henderson much at all in this game either, but I'm not excited about the New England Patriots continuing to march their way to the Super Bowl.
We can't even get a shout out for Drake May like finding a way to beat the Broncos defense with his legs. Like that made the difference, right?
It did.
Here, I've got a stat for you.
He made his own call at the end of the game there, right?
Yeah.
On the bootleg to get the first down.
I've got a stat for you. In the last, I think it's 12 years, the top 8 performers in single game playoff performances by scramble EPA: Patrick Mahomes, Drake May, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Pretty good company for a guy who's might win the MVP based on what he did as a passer this year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm with you that I think it could have been a different result if not for the weather, but
and also Bo Nix was not in that game, and if Bo Nix is in that game, it's definitely a different result. Or at least a different, not saying that the Patriots would have lost the game, but it certainly would have looked a lot different.
Yeah, and I just don't think that the early success that Stidham had, which was basically just the one
big
pass,
play.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily suggests that if it didn't snow that he was going to be doing that the rest of the game. Like I think they would have been getting after him kind of like they were in the snow anyway.
Well, kind of once they got out of the scripted plays, it seemed like Stidham really started to struggle.
Yeah, he could not handle some of the blitz packages they had because he was not getting they were blitzing and he still wasn't getting the ball out quickly to some of those shorter reads that you would anticipate Bo Nix is very
Yeah,
much
well-
capable.
And he knew Jarrett Stidham knew every throw he was going to make at the beginning of the game. Sean Payton is one of the best play
Early on,
scripters,
for
like
sure.
you know what I mean. So I think that once that happened, then that's where he started to struggle. I think in a lot of ways the Patriots did deserve to win that, or not in a lot of ways, in every way the Patriots did deserve to win
100%.
that game. You know,
Yes.
like they won it fair and square. They dealt with the same snow conditions.
Yeah.
Obviously that 4th and 1 call that Sean Payton made to not kick the field goal. It's even hard to like deliberate too much on that because you literally can't plan for a blizzard, like a literal blizzard coming up.
The amount of revisionist history.
You don't have the
we've seen
weather
in
app
the
on your
playoffs.
phone?
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
he must have had the radar out there or something.
No, I mean, I am almost always like 4th and 1, you're going for it like every time, guy. But I think in this situation, there is a case to be made for kicking the field goal, taking the points to go up 2 possessions when you're playing your backup quarterback and you know the weather's on the way. But I think at the end of the day, like you should just run the ball. Like that was the move, not.
Well, they can't. I mean, nobody's running the ball in New England this year.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. But
Yeah.
I think that
That's
that's been a key
the reason-
storyline.
That's the reason why I think weather was such an impact, because the only way the Broncos were going to win that game is if they probably threw the ball 50 times. Like
Yeah.
they threw it 26 times, I think, in the first half, or dropped back at least
Yeah.
26 times. That's what really is the. I'm not saying the Broncos definitely would have won if we didn't have the bad weather, but they would have definitely been playing. The way to their script to win this game was throwing the football and leaning on Jarrett Stidham. As much as that's crazy to say, I mean, it's a championship game for your backup quarterback. But that's just exactly how it was.
Well, with that said, these are the two teams that are in the Super Bowl. I don't think anybody would have predicted a Seahawks-Patriots Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. But I think now's the time to start breaking it down, to start thinking about what's going to happen moving forward. So I wanted to get here. We're going to do a position-by-position breakdown, see which team has an advantage at every level of the field. The way we're going to do it, I'm going to throw it to both of you guys. You're going to pick one. If we're in a pretzel, if we're in a Snyder's of Hanover pretzel,
Wow, what a plug!
I will be the deciding vote on which team gets the advantage there. These pretzels are electric, by the way. I kind of lost everything that T-Mac was saying in that last segment because I was just locked on Buffalo.
Just thinking of the producers in the
Buffalo
control
pretzels.
room just losing their minds at the crunching. Yeah.
As long as we're not smacking
Everything's
our
going to
lips.
be cut.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start it position by position breakdown for Super Bowl 60, starting at the quarterback position. T, who do you have for the quarterback position?
This is. I know
It's
we
kind
talk-
of a tough one.
I know we talk about how much this is a wow. The jalapeno down the throat.
Need some water?
I know how much we talk about this being like a Drake May's the MVP. You know, how could you not, or potentially MVP? But Darnold's numbers are right there, toe to toe. These guys are incredible with the deep ball this year, both of them. Darnold's technically got even better numbers downfield as a downfield passer this season. Play action opens things up in a big way for both of these quarterbacks. I do think Dan made a great point when we talk about Drake May's ability to use his legs is like a massive difference maker. We saw it this past week and will be in this game too. I think for the sake of this particular game, if the Patriots have a chance in this game, it has to be on the back of Drake May.
Yeah.
So I think when I'm talking about positional advantage, if the Patriots want a chance, Drake May needs to be the best quarterback in this game. So I will give the edge to Drake May, although it is closer than what, the MVP conversation indicates.
Yeah, I know I just opened the show going on about how well Darnold has been playing, and I think he's definitely been the better quarterback of late. But I think
There's almost no question about that. That
No,
Darnold's played
I
better
know.
in the playoffs than.
I agree, but I think that most of May's lack of production is a product of what's going on up front and how
Yeah.
the Patriots are struggling to protect him.
And you're also talking about playing the Broncos and the Texans in back-to-back games.
So the way I took this exercise is everything in a vacuum, and with that in mind, I'll take the guy who might win MVP this season. So, but it's a lot closer than I think people would have expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's good you guys went that way because I would have leaned Seahawks. I would have gone with Sam Darnold in that situation. But I think obviously that's going to make a lot of people upset. It's going to make Patriots fans upset.
I mean, give it 10 minutes, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of Seahawks going down the board.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to the running backs. This is a really interesting one because obviously Zach Charbonnet is out for the rest of the season, so that takes out a huge impact. We saw Seahawks are cycling in running backs that you're like having to Wikipedia what their names are, figure out who these guys are. And on the other side, we got Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson for the New England Patriots. Wilkie, who do you think has the advantage at the running back position?
I mean, I love Kenneth Walker, and I think that the absence of Zach Charbonnet has kind of cleared the way for him to kind of be the player that I was kind of hoping to see from him all season, just as a feature back. We saw him used in the passing game a little bit last week, and that was huge for the Seahawks offense. But the Seahawks clearly still favor bringing in George Halani in pass protection. I think he had 23 snaps in this past game. To me,
he made a drop that killed me in
Yeah.
that game too.
to me, that kind of makes me lean toward the Patriots because I think Ramondre Stevenson has been playing quite well. I think he's an underrated player, and I think you'll see a bigger role for Travion Henderson in this game. So I'll take the committee here
Yeah.
and give the Patriots one more nod before going big Seahawks the rest of the way, I think.
Yeah, I love Ken Walker. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the entire league because when he has space, like he cannot be tackled.
That like sky cam view like that's
Yeah.
been going around everywhere where he just like
Yeah.
jukes the guys out of their shorts.
There was the reception to the left. There was a reception he made right near the line of scrimmage, the left side of the line of scrimmage, if you were watching from the sky cam. And he made first tackler miss. Then the second tackler didn't even touch him. Like, didn't even get a fingertip on him. But the thing is like Dan said, they don't trust Ken Walker much in pass protection. And I do think pass protection is going to be a huge factor in this game, too, because of how good both of these run defenses are.
Yep.
And being able to go to two guys. And I know Henderson wasn't used too much, but like Dan said, I think he'll be used a bit more in a game that's going to require, I think, a lot more work in the receiving game for these backs, too. And having two options. Like Halani, like he said, played quite a bit this past weekend, too. So I'll take New England, too.
Well, the thing is, I feel like with Kenneth Walker is like it's either like a electric 18-yard run or he just gets stuffed to the line.
Yes.
And it's like very frustrating when you're trying to move the ball and matriculate and you have such a great defense to not have Zach Charbonnet, who is like a 4 yards a carry kind of a guy. You know?
I agree with that. I think that's really there. That's why Charbonnet gets so much run, or when he was healthy.
So this one is turn maybe just dig into the Snyder's pretzels if you're a New England Patriots fan for this next one. We got pass catchers coming up. T-Mac, who has the advantage for pass catchers?
I don't think this is a very hard decision. Like Seattle's got the best receiver in football at the moment. Man, listening to Tom Brady talk about the nuance of Jackson Smith-Njigba's route running, talking about how he keeps his shoulders square to these defensive backs to be able to disguise where his breaks are is just, again, I mean, Tom Brady. Going from Tony Romo to Tom Brady was something else this weekend. Telling me about how the weather's bad. Yeah, Tony, I can see the weather.
Tom
I'm
Brady
watching the
actually,
game.
like, he sold my wife, who really does not care about football at all, on Jackson Smith-Njigba. Like, when he started going, she started watching and she was like, hell yeah, this guy rules.
I think when you get to, tight end, the Patriots are in a better position with Hunter Henry than the Seahawks are with A.J. Barner. And I do think some of the supporting cast for New England is underrated when it comes to, Keyshawn Booty's a good fit, be able to take the top off. Demario Douglas is a great yards after the catch guy. Mac Hollins was kind of an instant impact in his return, which kind of did surprise me.
Feels like he makes like one key play every single game. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is, like, a lot of these guys last year when they were in a different system felt like, oh my gosh, these are some of the worst receivers in the league. But this year, as they've advanced the system and as Drake May has played better, you start to be like, oh, they're actually not that bad of players. These are some good players here.
I do think that's a good compliment, though, between JSN, Cup, and Shaheed in terms of some field stretchers, some more nuanced route running. Like, Cup is not at the level we've used to know him as, but there's still
Super
important
Bowl
times
MVP?
important times in the game where he is an incredibly smart player that can make a key third down conversion for you. So I'd be safely taking the Seahawks side there.
Same for you, Wilkie?
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring it up again. We talked about it coming into the season about how when the Seahawks signed Cup, we were like, well, now they got two slot guys. What are they going to do with this?
Yeah.
And then JSN just becomes like a top 3 outside receiver in the game and obviously can still do his thing in the slot. And then you add Shaheed in the middle of the season. I don't think this one is particularly close. I'm also on the Seahawks, but I'm with T and kind of wanting to shout out the Patriots playmakers because I think it's more than just Stephon Diggs.
It's kind of wild if you think about it. Like, there used to be a big Bill Parcells thing he used to talk about, what's called like a progress stopper, where it's like a guy is at a certain level, but because he's so entrenched into the lineup, he kind of prevents these other guys from breaking out. So sometimes you have to get rid of these progress stoppers. And I hate to kind of put one player in that category, especially a player as good as DK Metcalf, but DK Metcalf may have been a progress stopper for the Seattle Seahawks, and getting him out of there allowed JSN to command all of the attention of the offense, and it's worked out unreal for them.
Yep.
Next up, all right, the game's won in the trenches. That's what they always say. So let's move on to the offensive line, and then we'll get to the front seven. Starting with the offensive line, Wilkie, who do you have the advantage in this category?
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks offensive line isn't great, but it's better than what the Patriots have been dealing with recently. That group's really been struggling in the playoffs. They've given up 5 sacks in each of the 3 games so far, and a big part of that is Will Campbell just not being the same. So in the 3 games since coming back from his injury, he's kind of struggling to keep up on the edge. So
He had a massive, he was like so in his head. He had that false start that was just like, I've been getting beat all day and I'm getting a jump on this.
yeah, so I definitely worry that the Seahawks front 7, which I think we'll get to in a sec or on the next one, is going to be able to victimize that group. So yeah, I think the Seahawks have a pretty big advantage here.
I'm going to go New England because I do think we talked about coaching with Kubiak. These were the 2, by PFF's pass blocking efficiency metric, these were the 2 worst offensive lines in the entire league last year in that metric, which is crazy to think that they've now made it to the Super Bowl. I think that Seattle would prefer their tackles, but I do think New England likes the interior better. Like, both of these offensive lines have not done a good job in opening up lanes for their running backs. Like, they've got to do a lot of work on their own, and they haven't necessarily been terrific in pass protection. And as much as Dan said they've given up a lot of sacks, if you actually look at the numbers in terms of the Patriots offensive line, they've only given up like a 32% pressure rate in the postseason, while the Seahawks have given up over 40%. I think it's very close. Like, I don't think either of these offensive lines are high level, which is honestly insane to say about a Super Bowl. Like, anytime I talk about football in the NFL and who can win, I look at offensive line play as like the number 2 to quarterback play, sometimes even the number 1. I'm shocked that these offensive lines are here, and it's definitely a credit to the coaching, but I think that Clint Kubiak is doing more with less than Josh McDaniels is, so I would take New England's side.
Yeah, I guess so. We're in the pretzel, so I got to get us out of the pretzel. I'm going to go with it's what Wilkie said. Like, the way that I saw Will Campbell playing in that game, just it rattled me, and it made me really scared for what's going to happen from a defense that, like I said, is going to be extremely prepared coming into the game. And obviously with Kubiak, you know, you talk about the coaching. He comes from the longest line of West Coast offense. We figure out how to maximize whatever we're going to get out of our offensive linemen. So I'll take the Seahawks in that one. Okay. Now, going up against these offensive lines, obviously, is the front sevens. So, T-Mac, who do you have for the front 7 advantage in this game?
I do think
the Patriots defense is underrated. I will stand on that hill.
Oh man, with Milton Williams back, they've gotten back to the, you know, early season. The conversation was the Patriots haven't given up a 50-yard rusher in, what was it, the first 7 games of the year, and then they struggled while Williams was out. But since he's been back, there has not been a team to give up. They're giving up 3.1 yards per carry in the postseason. That's the lowest of any team that's made the Super Bowl in the last 4 years. Like, they've been dominant up front, stopping the run. Now, do they match up, or do they far exceed what the Seahawks provide? Not really. These two teams are very similar in that they do a great job of stopping the run without needing a lot of numbers in the box. And then you get into a little bit more of the edge rusher side. Like, I think Lawrence Nwosu is a little bit better of a tandem on the edges than what the Patriots have. And then Ernest Jones and Drake Thomas, neither one of them can give up a touchdown in coverage. They've been terrific as coverage linebackers as well.
Ernest Jones, you see just in every play, it feels like he's in the mix on everything.
All-Pro this year. I would give the edge to Seattle, but I mean, again,
Leonard Williams to Marcus Lawrence, they're strong.
This is probably, though, the strength of the Patriots' defense, though, right? Like, their front seven's probably the strength of their defense.
Leonard Williams, by the way, 2 top 5 picks from the Jets in the Super Bowl in this game. Leonard Williams and Sam Darnold. That's how you build a team, baby.
Yeah, I'm with T. I think this is another one where you give a nod to the Patriots and saying, like, this group is good, and Milton Williams is an animal, both in the run game and as a pass rusher. But I think the Seahawks are just a little bit better across the board throughout the front 7. I think I mentioned last week that this is the best EPA per rush unit since 2020 in the regular season, that is. And Seattle was also a top 6 team in pressure rate. So I think that they have it all. And going back to the offensive line, I think they have a real chance to create a lot of chaos against New England's offense.
Well, this is not looking good for the New England Patriots right here. We're on a bit of a run for this Seattle.
A lot of nods, a lot of like, hey, we got respect for you.
Yeah.
But
You know, Patriots fans, like, the nods is all they need. You know what I mean? They're never feeling disrespected. They're never feeling like the underdogs. So coming up next, we have the defensive backs. Can I just make one note before we do this? Reek Woolen. Probably the back-to-back worst sequence I can ever imagine a defensive back having. I genuinely thought that was going to cost them the game.
Well, that's what McVay was trying to do, right? He's like, "Oh, you're going to get the penalty. We're going right at you."
Yeah. That was extremely intentional by McVay to like have him get it in his head.
Yeah.
The penalty was a little bit ridiculous. I think.
I hate those penalties, man.
It's like you're yelling at the sidelines. these guys are like running at each other at the speed of freight trains and destroying each other. You can't like talk a little trash on the sidelines.
I mean, it
seems
wasn't a
ridiculous.
little trash. He literally took himself to the sideline. Unfortunately, you kind of have to call that. There's talking trash, and then there's walking onto the opposing sideline to do it. I think everyone could hear him. I don't think you need to walk to the sideline.
Mike McDonald has to have in his bag some kind of like shaded zone coverage if his player ever gets a penalty like that again. It's just like bracketing the receiver there. So who do we have for the defensive back advantage in this one, Wilkie?
I think this is a pretty obvious one for the Seahawks. They've got a really nice cornerback tandem with Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon. Julian Love and Kobe Bryant on the back end is solid. And then there's Nicky Manwari, rookie sensation, does everything out of the slot or really wherever they line him up. Yep. He can rush the passer, coverage, defend the run. He's been incredible. Looks like one of the best picks of the entire draft. So another one where the Patriots are pretty solid at corner with Christian Gonzalez, but like
I love Christian Gonzalez. He's so good.
Yeah, it's just not quite on the level of this defense.
Their safeties are going to be an issue, especially in this game when you look at how much play action Seattle uses. If those guys are not disciplined enough to avoid biting on some of the play action, getting beat over the top, that could be a problem because there's some inexperience there. I'm forgetting now Hawkins and
Craig Woodson.
And Woodson, yeah. So that really takes things over the top in Seattle's side for me.
All right, so then we're going to move to the last two categories here. We got special teams. I think this one is really interesting because these are two teams we talked about were not expected to be in the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. And what they've done is like they've played three phases of football all really well. They're extremely cohesive teams. Wilkie, who do you think has the advantage of special teams?
Yeah, this one, it would seem pretty close because they both have the dynamic return man. The Seahawks have Rashid Shaheed and the Patriots have Marcus Jones. But you go back to the numbers in the regular season, it actually wasn't that close. The Seahawks were a top 3 team by special teams EPA, and the Patriots were down around, I think they were 18th. And that checked in as like a net negative on special teams.
And that's only half a season with Rashid Shaheed as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that New England still has like the potential to make that game-changing play with a guy like Marcus Jones returning punts, but I think overall the advantage goes to Seattle pretty easily.
Is it crazy to say this is like the least well-known kickers we've seen in the Super Bowl in quite some time? Like, I bet you there's a good amount of people that don't know who kicks for the Patriots. Like, they'll be seeing him for the very first time. Myers, I think, is a guy who's been around for a while.
Myers has been around.
But
he's a former Pro Bowler.
Yeah, Marcus Jones he only returns kicks, doesn't return punts. So that's where Rashid Shaheed's impact can be felt even more because he's getting every opportunity on special teams to make a play.
And and now we're coming up. So I think, yes, give that to the Seahawks. It just, for me, Rashid Shaheed is just the ultimate tiebreaker in that situation. He's so explosive. He's so dynamic that he's going to be the guy that he is. If there's anybody that can have a Devin Hester moment, open up the Super Bowl with a kick return for a touchdown, it is Rashid Shaheed. Mm-hmm. But we're going to move on. Last category. The Seahawks have swept every single thing except for quarterback and running back, which makes you think, how in the hell did the Patriots
and those first two are kind of controversial picks by us, too. I mean, the first one maybe not so much, but the running backs is...
This one is going to be controversial. You guys know where I stand, the theory I've been working on. Who has the advantage in the coaching, T-Mac?
I talked about this. I mean, the Kubiak and why am I blanking right now?
Mike
McDonald duo is just... I said it's the best in the league, and it has been all season, and I think it's been on display in the postseason, especially offensively, the way they moved the ball in the Rams' defense this past weekend. And then the defense and the way they've played all year with great pieces, but I do think McDonald does a great job in terms of them being able to generate pressure without like an overwhelming number one option on the edge. The Patriots have done a fantastic job. Like, there's no sugarcoating it, but
the Patriots were in much worse shape heading into the season when Mike Vrabel got there than the Seahawks were.
100%.
But it is a miracle that the Patriots are in the playoffs.
Yeah, but I do think in a lot of ways people thought that Seahawks offense was going to be worse this year, and it has been much better. So I just can't give it to the Patriots. I got to go Seattle.
I got nothing to add to that. I love both of these coaching staffs. I think Mike Vrabel's incredible, and Josh McDaniels has done some amazing things with Drake May in that offense, but the combination of Mike McDonald and Clint Kubiak has been amazing. And just like shout out to Mike McDonald for coming off his first year as a coach and having the bold move to say, this offense isn't working. And like, to be clear, like that looks bad on a coach that the offensive coordinator that you came in and hired, you're already firing him. But he's like, no, we got to get it right. He goes out and gets someone that's actually going to work for the offense. Obviously the front office was involved in the decision to get rid of Geno Smith and bring in Sam Darnold, but that didn't look like the smartest move at the time either, and it's been incredible. So yeah, I think both these coaching staffs are great, but I give the advantage to the Seahawks.
Is there anything to the fact that I think we can all agree that the Seahawks scheme-wise, their coaches are doing a better job? Is there anything to how Mike Vrabel relates to his players and the fact that he's won multiple Super Bowls and he's been in this spot and knows what this league looks like, where Mike McDonald, this is his first ever time going to a Super Bowl? Does that give Vrabel even a tiny bit more advantage there?
I think you make a good point. Yeah, I think that Vrabel's experience as a player will definitely be beneficial to this team in the 2 weeks leading up, especially when it comes to all the additional.
And it's not just Vrabel, too. It's the whole everybody that's a part of that knows how to do this, right?
Yeah,
it's hard to measure.
Obviously the Super Bowl is big. I'm not saying that, but I don't want to make it like bigger than it is because like he's kind of been a giant slayer all the way there, right? Like they absolutely put the clamps on the 49ers offense twice at the end of the season, 2 times within 3 weeks. And that was pretty much what he was hired to do, right? Like come in and compete and take down these offenses in the NFC West. And then they beat the Rams in the last 2 times out. Like this team clearly became the best team in football, and I don't know. I have no reason to think that they won't continue doing the same coaching job they've done all year.
Yeah.
Well, then, fellas, we need to take a look here. Considering the fact that Seattle has the advantage on almost every part of the football, aside from the 2 most controversial picks that we had, before we leave, you got to give me, this game's not played on paper. It's not settled by who we think has the better team. It's settled on the field. So I need to know, how can the New England Patriots win Super Bowl 60? Because I know they can win Super Bowl 60. T-Mac, what does their offense need to do to be able to win this Super Bowl?
Yeah, we talked about this off the top, but I do think that the biggest factor here is Drake May and his arm and his ability to move the ball in the passing game, because of the fact Seattle all season, much like New England, has been one of the best run defenses in the entire league. They can take away the run in a really, really solid way, whether it's in their front 4 or their linebackers just are a tackle machine. Like, they do not miss a lot of tackles this season. So when it comes to Drake May and the arm and how they move the football, you look at the last 2 weeks, Matt Stafford was 7 of 11 on passes of 20-plus air yards, and Brock Purdy was 5 of 8. So that's a combined 12 of 19 in those last 2 games. Now, Seattle hasn't given up a lot of big plays throughout the season. If you look back in the regular season, they've only given up 18 completions of 20-plus air yards, but they've struggled against some quality quarterbacks in these last 2 weeks. I think Drake May and the connection with a Kayshon Boutte, or maybe it's a Kyle Williams for a play, is going to be crucial. Like, they need to be able to hit some explosive plays in the passing game that we haven't seen them hit in the last few weeks. Obviously, they're getting the benefit of the fact that this game is going to be played in some more friendly temperatures, which is, I think, benefits them.
Seahawks fans had a huge advantage in the games that they've played leading up to this. Like, winning the top seed was huge. It was very important for them.
For sure. And I think that being able to play now in San Francisco, or other times this would be indoors, is going to be beneficial for their offense, because that's where they're going to find success, is in the passing game. Now, a lot of people will say, well, this is another elite defense. We've seen Drake May struggle in these 3 weeks leading up to this game. But I will say, LA, Houston, and Denver were all statistically better pass rushes than what Seattle brings to the table. So this technically is the weakest opponent in terms of pass rush they've played so far in the postseason, statistically speaking. So that could be beneficial for him having a little bit more time to operate. But I do think, as well, as much as those big plays will be important, that discipline from Drake to be able to check the ball down to these backs, that's where you're going to see a lot of volume, is probably to Ramondre Stevenson, or hopefully we'll see a little bit more Travion Henderson for some potentially big plays too, that those backs will need to make some plays in the receiving game, because they will get plenty of opportunities to do so. That's kind of the way this Seattle defense plays, is they feed into a lot of checkdowns to those backs, and they'll have to make some plays after the catch to keep the chains moving.
Yeah, I honestly don't have much to add to what T said there. I thought he broke it down perfectly. The only thing is, like, take care of the ball, man. Like, we had enough, I think, heading into this past game, May had fumbled the ball 6 times over the first 2 playoff games, lost 3 of them. He obviously avoided turnovers in Denver, and that kind of made the difference.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got to do it again this time around, because one key turnover like that, and the Seahawks could pull away easily.
Yeah,
so Wilkie, if the Patriots offense doesn't turn the ball over, plays efficient football, maybe sneaks out a few of these big plays that T-Mac is talking about, what does the defense need to look like? What does the script need to look like for them to be able to stop the Seattle offense and actually win this Super Bowl?
I think defensively the formula is pretty simple. And if you're a Patriots fan, and I'm looking at producer Adrian in the control room waiting to hear this.
Damn.
It's also kind of easy to have optimism. It's just do the same thing you've been doing this entire playoff run.
Yeah.
New England, you talked about it earlier, they've been straight up dominant in the run game ever since Milton Williams came back. You dropped the stat about their yards per carry, right? What was it?
3.1.
Right. So they also have a 60.3% rush success rate in these 3 playoff games. And for reference, that's better than Tampa Bay's league best mark during the regular season. Obviously, that has been keeping opposing offenses behind the sticks. They're consistently forcing these obvious pass situations. And then when they get into those situations, they are dialing up pressure in a way that they weren't in the regular season. So they had a 27.2% blitz rate in the regular season. They're up to 39.8 in the playoffs. And the result has been a 51.9% pressure rate, which is the best among any team so far in the playoffs. I don't think that we would have guessed that in a playoff field that includes the likes of the Seahawks or the Texans or any of these other great defenses. Yeah. Now, obviously, the argument can be made that early matchups with the Chargers and Texans, given their offensive line situations, and then last week against the Broncos, playing a backup quarterback in the snow kind of presented favorable matchups for them to do this. And I will admit it's obviously going to be a little more tough to do that kind of to have that kind of success as a pass rush unit against a team like the Seahawks, who is just so well designed. The entire internet was going off last week about how Kubiak had pretty much locked up the job in Vegas when Tom Brady just couldn't stop talking about his play designs, right? So we'll see if that happens. But my point is that the Seattle run game hasn't really enjoyed the kind of production that we've come to expect from these like wide zone schemes. They actually finished the season as a bottom 5 offense in rush success rate. Forcing Sam Darnold into those like obvious passing situations probably won't make much of a difference if he plays like he did last week. But at the very least, it opens the door for the Patriots to kind of create a little chaos up front and maybe force him into one of the 2 of those mistakes that could kind of swing the game like we've seen from him before. You talked earlier about how he's going to have that propensity for turnover still, so they have to be able to take advantage of that. And the Patriots have been forcing turnovers like no one else this season. I believe they have 8 so far in 3 games, and I think that's 3 clear of the next closest team. So it's kind of basically, I think what this comes down to, if you factor in both sides, is win the turnover battle and you have a chance.
Yeah.
There's this elephant in the room that nobody's talking about but probably should be brought up, is that the Seahawks offense has played the 49ers secondary and the Rams secondary, 2 teams with far from elite groups when it comes to coverage. A Christian Gonzalez, Jackson Smith, and Jigba matchup would be fascinating. And if there's one thing to be critical of, Dan touched on it, there's this like Kubiak's offense, they kind of feel this necessity to run the football. Like they have the 2nd highest rush rate in the league. They run the ball in exactly 50% of plays this year. We know the Patriots can take away the run. So if they start to make this offense a little bit more predictable because they don't need to be overly committed to stopping the run because they're so capable of doing so without those numbers, that can really help putting more of a roof on this offense that obviously is so explosive.
You got to kind of get Sam Darnold on his heels a little bit and trying to go out there and win the game. Like if the Seahawks open this up and they're way ahead and they're able to dictate the pace of the game, it's going to be really tough for the Patriots to come back from that.
Yeah, agreed. I think that, I mean, we're talking about the Patriots, but I think that the Seahawks, to your point, have been a team all year that clearly believes that you need to run to set up play action. I don't know that that's necessarily true. So I think from their perspective, they need to come out and just not do that. Like, you know, you're not going to be able to run the ball well on this team. So just go play action shot plays from the jump and try to get out in front. And if you put the Patriots in a hole, they're going to have a tough time climbing out of it. So again, for me, it's don't get too far behind and win the turnover battle, and you have one of those plays that can flip the game.
And this is why we play the games. This is why we have the Super Bowl. And folks, we are just dipping our toes into Super Bowl coverage. We're going to have some more great stuff next week. But this week, we're all done. That's Dan Wilkins. That's Tyler MacKillop. I'm Zak McDonald. And we were No Timeouts, presented by Snyder's of Hanover and their deliciously bold pretzel pieces. Tune in next week. We've got some more exciting stuff for you.